RTE, supporting the arts.
Ronan, what are the qualities that a director needs to have?
Well, I think film directing is a composite skill. You have to know so many things about so many different areas. I mean, first of all, you need to have an understanding of drama, of literature, of plays, of screenplays. And you have to really understand what drama does and how it's achieved. The next thing is you need to know how to work with actors. You need to know the actor's process and how to then delicately deal with them. Then you have to know all about cinematography. You need to know about lenses, what individual lenses do, what filters do, and then lighting and how lighting can affect psychologically the responses of the viewer. Then, we're not finished. Then we're talking about production design, colour coordination in production design, and costume design, and how the two connect with each other so that there isn't a clash. Then you move into post-production, and you've got the whole question of editing, understanding editing. I mean, editing not only affects the drama, it also affects, as you would know, the actor's performance, bringing out the very best. Sometimes you can improve an actor so much. And then sound editing, how that affects things. And then the huge effect that music can have. So, as I say, you have to know all these things. It's not as easy as it sounds.
Is pre-planning an important part of the process?
Absolutely. When you're shooting a film, it's always against the clock. The more pre-planning you do, the less time you have frustrated on the set because you hadn't thought of things in advance. Pre-planning is essential. I mean, people like Alfred Hitchcock pre-planned every setup, every shot, never went into overtime. Likewise, people like Sidney Lumet. It's going to save you so much money. You, your cameraman, your designer. People don't realise it, but the designer is actually the first person hired on your average movie. Particularly a period film, or unquestionably on a period film. But pre-planning is essential. And here's the thing, the director should not let the production manager or first assistant work out the schedule. He should do it himself, he or her do it themselves. I mean, you know, a production manager could look and say, oh, she gets stabbed in the shower. Well, you know, that's 4 or 5 shots, half a day, max. Well, Psycho, it took 78 camera setups and I think 8 days to shoot that scene. So the director has to do the schedule. And regarding a schedule, they have to use their heads. You put everything in one location and do all of those. And then another location. You don't go hither and thither, to and fro. And likewise, put all your night scenes together in one go. And the other thing to remember is you can do a thing called a late start, where you're in a location and you start in daylight and you're allowed a few hours into nighttime. The night before the next day's shoot, you have to get a quiet moment and work out all your shots yourself that you're going to do the next day. Now, exactly the order you're going to do them in and what they are. But pre-planning the next day is really important because you may realise that you need tracks, or you need a Steadicam, or you need a camera crane, or indeed you might need a second cameraman and a second focus puller. So pre-planning is absolutely essential.
How do you deal with actors as a director?
Directing in film is quite different from directing in theatre. With theatre, the actors explore the text for 3, 4, 5 weeks and come to a conclusion. And then they stage it. With film, there's really isn't that ambiguity. It's pretty obvious on the page what the film is about, the style of it, and what the characters are like. If it's a grumpy waiter, he's a grumpy waiter. Directors tend to focus on the blocking of the scene with the actors. And unless an actor has got a seriously incorrect interpretation of a scene, they observe what they do and go with that. They may say to the actor, okay, in this scene, you come in that door, you walk over, you sit down in the middle of the sofa, you argue with Uncle Walt, you get up on this line and you storm off that way. That's because we've lit it this way, we've put the tracks this way, we're going to zoom in this at this moment, and that's how we're going to do it. Now, that doesn't interfere with the actor's interpretation of the scene in terms of his performance. It merely gives him the surface things that he has to do, and actors are able to take that on board, comply with it, and still give the performance that they had in their heads. So, Rachel, you worked with one of my heroes, the legendary John Huston, on his final film. What was the actor-director relationship on that one like?
Well, the relationship was wonderful, open, collegiate, deeply respectful from both sides. I mean, it was my first film. But it's interesting what you're saying about the actor sort of, once the blocking, the lighting and all of that is set up, then the actor brings whatever their internal process has been to that point to the set. We did actually have rehearsals for The Dead. We had a week's rehearsals where we did a lot of table work. And because it was my first film, I was only really learning my own process. I'd come from the theatre. But working with John, technically, he was astoundingly observant, obviously, and any little move that you made physically and within the confines of the mise-en-scène, he would point out very charmingly that it might not be the right move to make, or that you might not say it on the line, or you might not move up when I'm talking about the galoshes, for instance, not to say my line as I would on stage. As I'm lifting myself up from the galoshes, my energy was coming up. He was like, wait for me to come up with the dolly. Is it the dolly? Wait for me to come up until you say the line. And that actually changed the delivery. That changed my internal energy. And so I was learning technically and kind of creatively from John. He was brilliant in terms of articulating his technical needs within the respectful area of the actor's creative process. He was brilliant. In casting, what does a director look for in an actor?
I think what a director looks for in an actor is a creative imagination. That the actor is going to give you A, what you want, and B, is going to contribute something more, their own invention that they bring to the performance that you didn't think about. It's a very exciting thing when you see this happen in front of you, on a set. I think directors go for actors who have a creative imagination that is alive and has energy. And that happens at the audition process, where you meet someone and you kind of can tell, yeah, this person has got imagination and will contribute interesting things on the day.
Your latest film, A Sunken Place, how did that come about?
Well, I had helped Gerard Daly, the writer and producer on the film, with a previous film of his first feature film, Sonny Capone. And he came to me with his new script and asked me, would I be interested in doing it? I loved the script immediately. It was wonderfully structured and shaped. And it also gave two actresses lead roles in the film, which appealed to me. So Gerard had €40,000, and I knew that really wasn't enough to shoot a feature film properly. So what I persuaded him to do was to shoot half the film. The film is about a neurologist discovering a cure for depression, and the pharmaceutical companies are trying to stop her. But you also see the lives of 3 people who suffer from depression, their own stories, and that's intercut with the main story in the final movie. So I said, look, let's go and shoot the 3 subordinating stories, and we don't then have to do the big story in it. So we shot that. We got a 54-minute version of those 3 stories. We created a teaser trailer and sent it out to potential investors. And in that way, we got back enough money from new investors seeing that teaser trailer. And let's look at this trailer now. Now, one of the things about that film was we did have a cast of 65 people, but we only had a crew of 6 people. And that's how we were able to make the film for 82,000 quid. We had a cameraman who put up his own lights and operated. We had a sound recordist, Joe Dolan, a veteran, who also boom operated on it. I had a focus puller, which is essential, a key grip, a makeup girl, and a wardrobe person to supervise the wardrobe. When you do it with a crew of 6 or 7 people, it's an awful lot faster, believe it or not, because there's not people trampling over each other and falling over cables. There's only 7 people, and they all know exactly what they're doing. We had a very large cast. I mean, there's 65 speaking roles in it. And I'm very glad to say that 15 of the actors in it, it's their first film. It's their first appearance on film. The cast includes Lorna Quinn in the lead and a wonderful Australian actress, Emma Dargan-Reid, as the second lead, Barry McGovern as the villain, Seamus Moran, and my favourite actress, Rachael Dowling.
Stop. How do people who want to be a director, whose dream it is to be a director, how do they get a start?
Well, decades ago, I used to say to people, make a pop video. Because A, you don't have to have a sound crew, but B, you can make mistakes in a pop video, and because it's a pop video, say, no, I meant it like that. It's meant to sort of go out of focus as he falls into the water. I think now what people do is you make one short. You wait until you have the most brilliant script imaginable. And you make one short, you put all your energy and money into making one short. That's your showcasing piece. What I would suggest is that when you have your script and before you make your film, you go out with your iPhone and you do a dummy run. You get your actors, you shoot all the shots that you were going to do next week, and then you take them home, you edit it, and you see, oh my God, all the mistakes you made. But then, wiser, you're able to go out a week later. And that's it. You make a short. You then have to have a feature film project that you've either written or co-written that you say, this is the one. And you go with both to potential investors and producers and production companies. Or if you can get your hands on 40,000 quid, shoot half a movie and then hopefully raise the money for the other half. I did it, so you could too.
Yeah, well, thank you, Ronan. That was really, really fascinating insight.
Thank you, Rachel.
RTE, supporting the arts.